Welcome to You Can Be Healed with Connie. In this episode, I want to share with you the most common 3 C's that you should avoid in your life. If you could only avoid those 3 actions, your life would be much happier. And those 3 C's are complain, compare, and criticize. I will also share with you how you can stop those actions. At the end of this episode, I will share another 3 C's that will give you a better perspective on how to live a much happier life. I believe this episode will give you a valuable insight on how to be truly happy in your life. Before we get started, remember to subscribe to my channel to show me some support. Thank you. And now, let's get started. The 3 C's you should avoid in life is the first C, complain. Most people don't realize how often they complain because it has become a habit, and like all habits, it tends to be so familiar that it becomes unaware. Complaining is always a result of dissatisfaction with something or someone. The dissatisfaction essentially arises from not being able to accept what is and a desire to change it to what should be. What we like, we want to do more, and what we don't want, we want to change. But there are not many things that we can change in life. The only thing that we can control is our own attitude to things. The change of attitude takes care of all other changes. As I always say, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. When you complain, you are simply reinforcing negative thoughts. And the more you complain, guess what? The more you attract the very thing you complain about. Complaining also keeps people from taking action. It gives excuses to procrastinate and keep you from achieving your goals. It's always much easier to complain than to find a solution or take action. However, complaining doesn't make you a bad person. It just puts a huge block on the possibility of living an exceptional and a more happier life. It's a denial of responsibility, and blame is just another way of excusing yourself from being responsible. So, how do we stop complaining? Be aware and take responsibility. The first and most important first step is to become aware when you complain. Pay attention to your thoughts and observe yourself for the next few hours and the next few days. When you catch yourself complaining to someone or something, shift your focus and think the opposite way. Recognize your thoughts and interact with them like an observer, so you don't judge yourself. Take responsibilities for your thoughts. It doesn't mean that you have to feel guilty or beat yourself up. It just means that you recognize the negative thoughts that are going through your mind and realize those thoughts are not you. They are just thoughts. Once you accept that you are the creator of your thoughts, you can change them. Ask yourself, what is the positive intention of complaining about this issue? The answer will help lead you to the next step. For example, when you are complaining that you are not earning enough, that complaint is telling you something that you don't want. Do you think that you deserve better? If so, why are you staying? Do you think you can earn more? If so, why didn't you ask for it? What is holding you back? Do you do your best at work? Or you keep focusing on others who are doing better job? Is there any new skills that you can learn to help you advance your professionalism? And how can you do better? Observe your complaint and the positive intention behind it, and ask yourself, what do I really want? Be very clear about what you do want, not what you don't want. Once you are clear about what you do want, your goal is to seek a solution. What actions can you take now? Maybe the time has come to look for a new opportunity. Maybe start your own career. Or it may be a time to leave a relationship or take better care of yourself. The point is that if there is a problem bothering you, you are responsible for fixing it. Complaining about the problem will never change it. You will only attract more of it. So stop complaining and start taking responsibilities. The second C is compare. Comparison is the thief of joy. Most of the time, we are unhappy is because we are feeling like we are not meeting an ideal or not doing what everybody else is doing. And most often, it's about something the other person is capable of doing that we wish we could do as well. In other words, we have a fundamental need to evaluate ourselves. And the only way to do that is in reference to something or someone else. Look, there is an infinite number of categories upon which we can compare ourselves and an almost infinite number of people to compare ourselves to. And with how flooded we are by social media, it's easier than ever to constantly find someone better to compare ourselves to, which only serves to make us feel bad about ourselves. The common thing most people compare to can start from school. Compare the grades, the score. As you grow up, you may begin comparing a job title, income level, social title, appearance, etc., etc. So we've all been there. The thing is, once we begin down that road, we never find an end. However, we are just human. The tendency to compare ourselves to others is as human as any other emotion. So you are not alone in your experience. I want to remind you that comparison will never be fair. We typically compare the worst we know of ourselves to the best we presume about others, but you never know what they have been through in their life. What you see is a very little part of them. You may see someone very successful, but you never know how many sleepless nights, rejections, emotional stress they have been through. If you could only put yourself in their shoes. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, we waste our precious energy and time focusing on other people's lives rather than creating our own life. You can only control one life, and that is your life. So, how do you stop constantly comparing yourself to others? Remind yourself, nobody is perfect, and everyone has their own issues in life. Everyone is doing the best that they can from their own level of consciousness. Believing that we are all doing the best that we can opens our heart to kindness and compassion. We can make the conscious choice not to hold ourselves to constant standard of absolute perfection. The only person you should compare to is you. Work hard to take care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Commit to grow a little bit each day and learn to celebrate the little advancement you are making without comparing them to others. You are too unique to compare fairly. Your gifts and talents and value are entirely unique to you and your purpose in this life. They can never be properly compared to anyone else. You can only be the best version of who you are by notice how far you have come over the weeks, the months, and those years. Look at what changes you've overcome, how you've grown, how you've experienced. There are 7 billion people on this planet. You are so unique, and there's only one you. There's really no comparison needed. The third C is criticize. Criticizing is also like complaining, but it is a more aggressive action. And the most common self-criticisms concerns about weight, looks, clothes, finances, job titles, social titles, and especially women, because studies say that the average woman criticizes herself at least 8 times a day. When you criticize others, most of the time it involves a lack of understanding of the other person's viewpoint. As long as there are different people in this world, there will be different opinions about things. Most of the conflicts in life or in the world arise because of this lack of understanding. When you criticize yourself, I want to share this quote from Louise Hay. You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. If you're not happy with some aspect of your life, get proactive. You can't change the past, but you can change how you feel about yourself now and choose what kinds of qualities you want to develop and improve. We all have a critical voice that's constantly commentating on our performance and berating us, and we believe what it says. But I want to tell you that voice is telling you fear-based lies. If that voice in your head is saying something that you can't imagine saying to a person you love and care for, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself. Do you speak to yourself as you would to a friend or your loved ones? Ask yourself what advice you would give to a friend. It's often easier to be more compassionate toward other people than to yourself. For example, while you might call yourself stupid for making a mistake, it's unlikely you would say that to a loved one. When you're struggling with tough times or doubting your ability to succeed, ask yourself, what would I say to a friend who are in this situation? Then offer yourself those same kind, loving, encouraging words and believe that's the truth instead. Now, notice how you feel when you try on this new thought. The more you do this, the more you will break free from negative self-talk and criticism. Now, you've learned the 3 C's to avoid in order to live a better life. And as promised in the beginning, I want to give you another 3 C's of life that can change your life for better. Those are choice, chance, and change. The first C, choice. Life is the sum of all your choices. Every day we are faced with decisions, some large, some small. All the decisions and choices which we have made or did not make will determine the kind of life we have right now. Choices are the foundation of your life. The wrong choices are part of learning cycle. It makes us human. Every choice you make makes you. The only thing that you can do to make better choices in future is by taking conscious decisions and taking full responsibilities of your choices. Learn from the past mistakes. Remember what choices you make is completely in your control. It has always been, and it will always be that way. Second C, chance. There is only one big risk you should avoid at all costs, and that is the risk of doing nothing. By making a choice, it is by default taking a chance, which leads us to focus even more on the obstacles that surround us. We sure wouldn't want to be that person who would later on end up saying, "I wish I had done this," or "been there." We only live once, right? Taking a chance sometimes feels like taking risk. But in order to achieve our goal, you will require courage to face the fear of uncertainty and unknown. No matter the outcome, either way, we grow through the process and become more resilient and confident. Many people have a difficult time dealing with the uncertainty and the fear of potential failure. You may tell yourself, "What if I fail? What if I lose all the money that I invested? What if I open my heart and get rejected? What if I am not good enough?" Answer that with another what if. What if the point of taking risk isn't the outcome, but the process of personal growth and make you a better person? Through taking risk, we must confront our own fears, and sometimes that leads to failure. But what if you succeed? The third C, change. Everything changes. The only constant is change. So why do we resist it so much? Why can't we embrace it? Big life changes don't always come wrapped in a big package. Sometimes they're in a small one which we need to tend and nurture to develop it into something bigger. Just like planting a tree, it all starts with that tiny seed. Every life change comes to us through opportunities we see, or through a difficulty which end up having hidden fruit. Know this truth I have learned for myself. You are a beloved child of the universe, and as such, the universe is conspiring to work things out for our greatest good. We are all deserving. We are all worthy of this universal love. So the opportunities we are given aren't a reflection of someone having more value and another less. It's what we do with the opportunities that matter. Remember to keep these important 3 C's in mind: the choice, the chance, and the change. You must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change.